There's definitely potential to sort of increase the margin. We're looking at about a 15 to 20% of changes in margin, of increase in margin.
Crazy. We don't even say that much in our marketing campaigns.
So GCID itself, we started off in 2015. We are basically now from one company, we've gone to 3 companies. And as of today, we do anything from, a small boutique all the way up to corporate offices and multi-story buildings. The agenda of digitization was predominantly to reduce the amount of work that they have while increasing the efficiency and at the same time reducing the number of errors that happen through the whole process. And it's really important that you keep your people at the front of your thought process when you're doing this about how they are going to adapt to something like this.
While you are experimenting with cloud-based project management softwares, what are the key goals or KPIs that you had in mind? Like, these are the bare minimum achievements that I want to meet, and whatever I'm getting on top of it is an extra delight.
We did try platforms in terms of Zoho One is one of them. You have Udo, which is a regional top. It's a brilliant platform, but it's not purpose-based. The first thing that we were looking at in terms of goals was we needed to standardize the workflow. The next thing was to have a real-time visibility on the progress of our projects, because this also now connects to the cash flow. So then you're looking at budgets, timelines, all of this that sort of comes into play.
A lot of time, leaders end up thinking that they will decide what's right for the company. They will make a judgment call. They will evaluate a bunch of technology options, and then they will try to push it down as a mandate to the team. The way you have done it, it's your team's decision. You are just steering the wheel, right?
Well, the reason we did it this way is because we tried the other way and failed.
Interesting. Would you want to double click on the second aspect as well? How is there any margin impact that you think there's a potential to increase margin by doing implementation such as RDash in a design build setup?
There's definitely potential to sort of increase the margin. If that was not the case, we would not look at the digitalization side of things. We're looking at about a 15 to 20% of changes in margin, of increase in margin, just by achieving those KPIs.
Crazy. We don't even say that much in our marketing campaigns. Hi guys, welcome to RDash webinar. It's a place wherein we discuss how to approach digitization in your construction business, how to go about this, what ROI to expect, and what pitfalls to avoid. In today's conversation, we will have a chat with Mr. Nikhil Menon. He is a sound designer by qualification who landed in his family business, Crest Interior Decoration Limited, wherein they are doing commercial fit-out for a lot of prominent brands like Mustard Bank, Collins Aerospace, Sky News, CNN, and many more. So hi Nikhil, welcome to the webinar. How are you doing?
Hi Amit, thank you. Thank you for having me and by extension GCID on board. I'm doing fantastic. How is things with you?
Can't complain. Everything is good. So Nikhil, generally the context of the conversation that we are having is there are so many companies in construction and fit-out space who are now seriously exploring digitization, but do not really understand the start point. Even if they have taken the starting initial steps, they are stuck in really driving the adoption. So with this chat, we try and dissect how really a successful digitization looks like, how to go about this, right? And would love for you to share some of your practical insights. But before we get to
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, that's. I think that's the need of the hour. The whole industry is on the verge of digitization, and the education awareness is, I think, will get us there. But before we start, would love to know a bit more about you, where you are coming from, what you were doing before you landed in your business in GCID.
I'm not from the field. I'm not from the construction field. I'm not from the traditional engineering field. I'm not from the fit-out field. By education, I basically have a Master's of Science in sound designing and specializing in psychoacoustics from the University of Edinburgh. So I've worked, one of my first jobs was game sound designing for a game studio in Edinburgh. Before that, in UAE, I was sound designing for some of the regional shows. I was co-producing events, some large-scale events. Post that, I was with Yash Raj for 2 years. I was working with them and with with few other Bollywood agencies as a sound designer.
Okay.
And after that, I was basically brought on board to sort of start and launch and run the School of Audiovisual Technologies for a university in Bangalore. So I did that for about 2 years, and that's sort of the phase where I shifted from the sort of the creative field or the designing field down to management side of things, a managerial role or an operational role. And from there, basically, it kicked off. And then, so I had a call with my father and his partner, and I said, this may be something. And at that point, they basically told me, well, you've got 3 months, so you learn how things work. If it doesn't, this is not your father's company. You're gonna have to leave.
Okay.
That's basically what I was told. So then I get into the field, and I spend about the first 3 months on site, sort of physically learning the activities that's going on with the workers, taking part in things, asking questions, trying to understand why they're doing things in a certain way, getting to know the standard sizes, the standard requirements that is required, understanding from the project manager how he works things around. And then I was with estimation for some time. I was with procurement for some time. I sort of started understanding design better, then started doing authority approvals and submissions. And so it took me about let's say about 3 to 4 years before I was in a position where I could sort of say that I understand most of it. I still don't understand all of it. There's still things that are new to me, which I learn on a day-to-day basis. I don't think it's something that you're ever going to learn completely, whether you have a degree or not. But that was sort of my journey. So that's how I ended up from I want to make cool sounds for games to let's sort of expand, explore, and see what entrepreneurship looks like.
That's surely an interesting journey, and that's I think good playbook for all second generation entrepreneurs to I think get hands-on and get acquainted with the business that you are eventually running and taking on your shoulders. So, Nikhil, why not you tell us a little more about GCID as well? What is the scale of operations? How many people are working there? What kind of customers and projects that you're dealing with?
Right. So GCID itself, we started off in 2015. And when we started, I wasn't part of GCID, but when we started off, we had about 4 people in the company, which, sort of grew to 7 within the same year. And from 2015 to today, we are basically now from one company, we've gone to 3 companies. So we've got 2 sister companies down the supply chain. One is a factory. The other one is technical services, which we recently launched. And we've gone from 7 people to 120 plus people. In terms of scale as well, we've grown in the size of the projects that we can handle, the number of projects that we can handle. And as of today, we do anything from, a small boutique, which is between 1,000 to 2,000 square feet, all the way up to corporate offices and multi-story buildings, which we are currently working with. So that's sort of the growth that we've gone through. And we're working with international brands. We're working with government agencies. Not a lot of government, but we do work with some of the government side of things, regional businesses. And that's basically what we do. And in terms of our strength, I would say that, we work with tight timelines, a high quality, and we're basically compliance focused with what we do.
So, Nikhil, you talked about, the scale and the kind of projects that you're doing. So just to summarize for our viewers, you are doing commercial fit-outs, both retail as well as office design build projects. And you own the supply chain in a way wherein you have your own factory, you have your own technical services team wherein you are driving maintenance and the technical jobs of a specialized kind. Right. We want to dwell into that as well. What do we exactly mean by technical jobs? But can you shed a little more light on when you're running your projects, what is the key methodology that you're following? Are you, for example, let's say if you get, 20,000 square feet design build office, how do you break this order down in your suppliers? Do you subcontract the civil work to your subcontractors and specialty contractors, or you buy your materials and put, specialized labor workers at site and coordinate with them at the fine degree of precision?
So we sort of work both ways. It's almost a hybrid scenario that you could look at it as. So we have our own in-house team as well. So we have our own in-house team of blue collar workers as well. But what basically happens is I'll just take you down through a quick journey in terms of a project, a design and build project. So most often than not, you would initially you would sort of start talking with the client in terms with the design team and the estimation team. And obviously, this is the first point of contact where both the design and the estimation need to be aligned along with the client. And post that, we then sort of, once we back the project, we have to go through the approvals process, which again, we take care of internally. Sorry, I forgot to mention the design team is also internal.
Okay.
So we sort of have them on board with us. And so then we take care of the authority approvals. And depending on the location and the kind of job that we're doing, the number of authorities changes. Okay. The authority in itself could sort of vary depending on where the site itself is located in. And post that, we sort of have a kickoff. And during the kickoff, we discuss everything that's down to the project, right from the scope of work to the drawings to the designs, what we are going to do, what's the timelines that we're looking at. So then we have our project manager, we've got the estimation, the procurement, the design team. So it's basically an internal huddle that we have to make sure that the project then moves smoothly. When it comes down to the execution of things, we have subcontractors, which we use. We have specialized subcontractors, for tasks that we don't do. But at the same time, there have been situations where our own blue collar workers are tied up in a certain location, and we have a different projects that's running out, and at that station we basically get to choose one of the options that we have, which is either A, go with a subcontractor, or B, have one of our foremen or one of our supervisors on site and then hire a manpower service which supplies skilled workers to our sites. So we've done both. It just purely depends on the situation and the projects that we currently have running.
Understood. I think that's how majority of companies operate in the design build sector.
Yeah.
So at what point in your journey of scaling GCID that you realize that you can't do without tech anymore? And what are some of the digitization experiments which were partly successful or not successful?
Honestly speaking, from the time I joined GCID, it was quite clear that right from the top, the owners were always inclined towards, digitization. They always saw the benefits of digitization. Of course, they were also wary about it, but all in all, they sort of supported the entire structure, which I think is very important for any company, to have the top say, what, we are with you. If you find a way to do things right, then, to do things easier, to do things better, we are with you. The key point in our timeline when we sort of had to move digital was in 2018 in itself. We had way too many papers lying around the office. Each project had maybe 3 or 4 files, and, sort of handling the physical paperwork got a little tricky. And, you'd have multiple emails going back and forth. And then to find the latest, either the latest drawing or, maybe we had an order change. So to sort of track that was becoming a tremendous task. So when all of this happened, we sort of realized that it was quite necessary for us to move to the digitization side of things. I wouldn't say we were one of the early adopters of digitization, but we definitely sort of ran on it when we came through. In terms of looking at experiments and failed experiments, we started off with a NAS. That was our idea of starting digitization. So we had a network attached storage within the office. So we had a centralized place where we would save all the documents. We would have different folders. So, for construction, updated on so-and-so date, and then we would just replace those files as and when we went. So that was sort of the first stage of what we were doing. And the next stage that we did after that was we sort of upgraded the NAS. We got a different network attached storage, which allowed collaboration, which allowed, you could share the link with people who are not within your organization. You could work on it from anywhere in the world. You could sort of ask your clients or your subcontractors to drop in documents or to download documents from there. So that was the next stage. And then comes the sort of the tricky situation, and we get hit with a ransomware, with a deadbolt ransomware, which attacks all of this particular NAS manufacturer. and our files get locked out. So overnight, we come back to the office and all our files are now decrypted with a .deadbolt as the file name at the end.
Great.
And obviously, we get a ransomware message and things like that. So that was pretty tricky. And at that stage, we also did have a backup, but this also affected the backup.
Which year was that in?
This, I believe, was in 2020? No, 2019. I believe it was somewhere there. I don't recall, but even today in my office, I've got 4 hard drives with a label on it which says Deadbolt ransomware. So just something that we lost. We lost quite a bit of data over there, a lot of our clients. But it was definitely a wake-up call for us because we do work with some sensitive clients. We work with banks. We work with engineer's office, which is a government place. So these are sensitive data that is there, including blueprints. So it's not something that we would take lightly as such. So that's sort of when we started exploring other options. We started looking at, cloud-based digitization, and then we started looking at the digitization flow in terms of approvals and bringing on teams on board and then bringing RDash on board. It's just been a scale up at every level as of now.
Understood. What a journey, actually. So generally people would give up after 1 or 2 failed attempt, but you have been keeping at it, it seems.
I would give credit to the 2 owners of the company who kept with me every time I went and asked them for money to do something that they were not sure will work or not. So
interesting. So this time around, let's say over the last 2-3 years, while you are experimenting with cloud-based project management softwares, wherein what are the key goals or KPIs that you had in mind? Like these are the bare minimum achievements that I want to meet, right? Then I will extract my value for money if I achieve these bare minimum basic goals, and whatever I'm getting on top of it is an extra delight.
See, I think it's important for me to sort of go one step back and then come back over here with the attempts of digitization and adaptation of platforms. We did try platforms in terms of the generic platforms that are there, which are fantastic. Zoho One is one of them. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant platform, but it's not purpose-based. You have Odoo, which is a regional top. It's fantastic for a lot of other companies, but when you talk about a specific construction-based scenario, it is not purpose-based. So coming down from there, that's when we sort of went back to the drawing board and said, okay, so what are our goals? What are our KPIs? What are we looking at? So the first thing that we were looking at in terms of goals was we needed to standardize the workflow. People would sort of do what came naturally to them, whether it is, just directly go to someone or send an email or send a WhatsApp message or something like that, and expect an approval process or expect the payments to go out or come in or whatever it is. So we had to standardize that across all the departments, whatever workflow that they had. The next thing was to have a real-time visibility on the progress of our projects. Okay. So it was pretty critical that we had this information with us, because this also now connects to the cash flow. So then you're looking at budgets, timelines, all of this that sort of comes into play. So the real-time visibility was again one of the major goals that we were looking at. Beyond that, we also had sort of gaps in terms of when we would get approvals to do XYZ. I'm talking about internal approvals. So you would have to wait for the person to be in the office, whether I'm getting an approval from my boss or if someone else was getting an approval, from me or from the design head or something like that. They would have to wait for this person to come to office or send them something on WhatsApp, wait for them to check it out and things like that. So now we've sort of digitized that as well. We've also put in redundancies over there. So in case one person is not available to approve it, that approval can be moved to someone else as well. So that sort of came in, and better communication. So the key thing, I think every project is the same, whether it's interiors, whether it's construction or, game development. At the end of the day, communication is basically key. And that is where you will have most of your flaws. And you're looking at, 80 to 90% of the job is planning. Yes. You plan it right. And then the execution is about 10 to 20% of it. So the planning stage is purely about communication. So at this point, and you have so many different parties involved. You've got subcontractors, you've got, different stakeholders, you've got the clients, you have your own internal teams, and it's really necessary that they all communicate really well. So this was basically the goals that we went into when we were talking about digitization. And when we're looking at KPIs, what we want to see come out from it. And again, this is an ongoing process. This is not something that's going to stop at any point. We always want to see KPIs in terms of reduced delivery times, reduction of the number of times that we have to rework something, the kind of snags that we are attending. We want to reduce those that is happening. We want to increase the speed of approvals, of internal approvals. We want to increase the speed of issuing the invoice as well to the client. A lot of times we've seen projects that go past a certain milestone and we've still not invoiced the client for it, and we are happily going ahead and doing the works for the client when our cash flow is now the project is no longer cash flow positive. That's another thing. And then we also want to see an improvement in client satisfaction. I think these would be the four main KPIs that we would be looking at, that we are actively working towards. We have already seen these happen, and we are expecting more as well.
Interesting. So we will double click on the KPIs, Nikhil, but I would want to pause here for a moment and repeat what you said. You said that in the beginning, when you had digitization goal in mind, you were looking at fixing the internal processes first. You were looking at fixing workflows, approval hierarchy, setting up approval flows, make your payment, approval, purchase order, expense request, all these fundamental processes more robust. Then you were looking at real-time visibility of what's happening on site. And then you were saying that you were looking at better communication, which I assume is also about unlocking better rhythm between multiple teams who are collaborating with each other. So these three things that you have said, they are very intuitive for you to say, but what we have generally seen is people do not generally approach digitization with this mindset, because sometimes, so this mindset of digitization, which I also believe is the right mindset of digitization, that if you fix your systems and processes, the output will eventually be done right. And you can always fine print these systems and processes with deeper workflows. You can embed deep tech in between the workflows if your data is already structured. So if you have a standardized method of recording your design files, standardized method of making your BOQ, then you can implement a plugin wherein you can have automated quantification from your design to BOQs. Similarly, you can put in some agent for rate analysis wherein your BOQ gets dissected into materials, and different kind of deep tech interventions, maybe around capturing site progress through IoTs. All these interventions are possible and sticky when you have foundational workflow sticky and implemented right. If you try to do it other way around, most likely not, you enjoy the fanciness of it for a while, but then you start, it just does not stick. And as soon as your project get over or your person change, then the whole initiative go away with that. So that's all.
What you're saying is very relevant, because I don't want to take credit of having this mindset while I got into digitization the first time, or when we sort of pushed into digital. Initially, this was not a mindset. Initially, our mindset was, we just want to change things. We want to be quicker. We want to be better, and all of that. We learned the hard way when things didn't work. We've learned the hard way when we had problems on the site, and then we had to find a solution to fix it.
Yes.
That's basically how we've learned. And the owners, obviously, they come with an immense amount of experience, going back in the same field for decades before they started this company. So they come in with their experience and their understanding of how the company is operating. But again, it was quite important for all of us to keep up with the time. Where digitization basically gives a company an edge over the others, over your competitors, and even with your clients.
Understood. That makes a lot of sense. Nikhil, I'm compelled to ask at this moment that, if you divide the whole digitization in two buckets, bucket one is fixing your core processes, like, how you digitize the scope management or change order management with the customers, how you digitize the purchase order, not at the macro level like the way you can do it in a generic ERP, but at the element level, so that you can have your change order management relate back and forth as well. So a little bit of fine-tuned method of fixing all your financials and core processes. Let's put this in one bucket. And another bucket is achieving operations excellence by better design management, better project tracking, better snag management, and these kind of initiatives. Let's keep it in the second bucket, right? So it's a foundational bucket, there's an excellence bucket, right? When you approached the successful leg of digitization, so I'm not talking about the failed attempt, but I'm talking about the successful attempt, right? In this successful attempt, what has been your approach? What you digitized first? How did you use that as a foundation to go in deeper?
I'll tell you honestly, the successful attempt, or rather the attempt that again, whatever we are doing is a growing entity. Whether it is GCID, whether it is RDash, whether it's processes within our companies, whether it's Microsoft team, it's a growing process. So the sort of successful attempt that we've seen right now was the mindset was none of these came first. The mindset was, don't treat this as an IT project, but treat it as a people process project. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but that's the mindset that we went in. We went in with the mindset saying that we don't want people to feel, so we don't want the team to feel like they have one extra work to do. We don't want them to feel like they've got an additional task. The agenda of digitization was predominantly to reduce the amount of work that they have while increasing the efficiency, and at the same time, reducing the number of errors that happen through the whole process. So that was the mindset that we entered in. And because of that mindset, we had all these goals, which was, okay, so we need to standardize the workflow. We need to have real-time visibility on the projects. We need to reduce, the bottlenecks that are happening in terms of our approvals. And we need to sort of communicate better and things like that. So that's basically how we went about it.
Understood. So basically what you're saying is that we did not look at individual processes or initiatives in silos. We look at one workflow, and which all areas this workflow is touching, you try to look at the whole workflow in totality, and then brought in cultural alignment towards that. We have to do this right if you have to scale big time.
Absolutely. And it's really important that you keep your people in the at the front of your thought process when you're doing this, about how they are going to adapt to something like this.
So let's talk about change management a little bit as well. So you said that you've taken it up as a people project, and we are a people-centric industry. Whatever deep tech or advanced tech, even RDash, whatever you are talking about, none of it is to replace people. All of it is to empower people, improve better collaboration, reduce rework of people that they are doing on day-to-day basis, right? But this is not generally understood or taken in that spirit when the initiative is exposed to them. How did you handle that resistance? Was there any resistance? What was the shape and form of it? And how were you able to cope up with that?
So this time, the successful attempt was really interesting. What we actually did was we had people from the projects team, our own projects team, with us when we initially explored RDash, or when we initially looked at teams. So we had the owners, we had the project manager, we had estimation team, and so we had members from across the different sort of divisions or the different verticals that we have. Even my design team, even my procurement. So all of us were there when we actually explored the object, and we kept them in mind. And before we took any decision, we sort of spoke to them. We asked them what they thought about it. We sort of explained to them, and we put in front of them how this would make their life easier, how this would improve their work culture, how this would reduce the amount of burden that they have, and it would sort of allow a future automation to then take place. So that's basically how we looked into it. That being said, the most senior staff that you're looking at, who have learned for years about working with pen and a paper, it's not easy to bring them on board onto the same platform. It's not easy to get people to sort of start using a platform immediately. There is a learning curve to it, and in that learning curve, people will always find it slightly burdenous. So that's when you have the training support that comes in from the digitization platform, or from the person who's sort of leading the digitization. That's where that comes in. Now, while all of that is happening, it's really important that the people on top of the company, which starts from the owners and then the management and everyone else below, it's really important that right from the top, that's the first place of acceptance and integration and adaptation, right? As long as you have the top who's adapting it, the rest will flow on its own.
That's super interesting, actually. So a lot of time, leaders end up thinking that they will decide what's right for the company. They will make a judgment call. They will evaluate a bunch of technology options, and then they will try to push it down as a mandate to the team. And that's almost like increasing the risk quotient in the whole initiative. The way you have done it is almost like their decision. It's your team's decision. You are just steering the wheel, right?
Well, the reason we did it this way is because we tried the other way and failed.
Interesting. So this time around, you would go back to your team that, okay, you made me spend this much money. Now what's happening with my money? So you are asking.
That's basically, yeah. No, but in all honesty, the other side of it was not to shove it down their throats. Yeah. It was to sort of give them time, let them grow with it, and have one thing implemented at a time, rather than having the entire system active at the same time and expect your team to go in there tomorrow morning and start using it. That's not going to happen.
When we're talking about KPI, Nikhil, you mentioned one instance that, not maybe instance, but one example that cash flow control was very crucial for you as a KPI. You said, there's no point of delivering a project on time with right quality if your cash flows are not in hand, right? There's no point of delivering great project and losing money. You want to deliver great projects, but at the same time, you want to be making money. That's the foundation of any design, build, or construction business, right? So what it is that you were not able to fix with general purpose softwares like Zoho or Odoo when it comes to cash flow control linked to real-time visibility of project, that you are able to solve through a purpose-built softwares?
So when you're looking at the cash flow, first things we need to understand is I'm almost certain it's the same in almost every region, but especially in this region, you would see that the budgets are tight, the time is tight, and there are delay penalties that gets involved. It's a high risk environment, and at the end of the day, you don't sit with a lot of margin in hand. Your net doesn't really amount to a lot of percentage when you look at the whole picture. So what really important is, again, to keep every project cash flow positive. The way we do our accounting is we do not look at the entire sort of system as one unit. We look at each project, and each project has its own separate accounting. Yeah. And the reason we do that is, as principle and as policy, we don't fund projects. Yes. It's the client's project. They need to fund that project. We are happy to come and serve them where we can, and we are happy to try and make their life as easy as possible. That's what we want to do. But then coming down to sort of the gaps that you're looking at, when you're running a construction project, there's so many different line items that are happening over there. And the only actual way of capturing your real progress on site is a percentage of each line item that goes on. And when you're looking at that, our payment terms sort of linked to these progress in things, because no one's going to give us 50% advance and 50% after work. Yeah. Because they're not going to pay us 50% of a large amount, because what we do, again, it's a high capital scenario, right? So no one's going to give 50% advance. And we definitely are not going to finish the project and still have 50% outstanding. Yeah. So that's not a situation. So usually our payment terms are, let's say, 20% advance or 30% advance, and the balance is on progressive. So when we say it's on progressive, it means if I've collected 30% advance, I need to raise my next invoice at 50%. And hopefully I get paid within the week after that. And then the next invoice goes up, at 70% and so on. And basically at the end of the project, when I hand over the project completely to the client, in an ideal situation, it does not always happen, but the only liability I want to have is about 5%. Which is my risk factor that sits there, which is still extremely high for us. Yes. But that's sort of something that's acceptable. So when you have something where you can clearly sort of see the progress of what's happening, and this, again, I was not able to do it with Zoho and Odoo. I'm not saying that they cannot do it. They can definitely do it, but it is a lot more UI friendly to do it with a purpose-built platform. So when things are not UI friendly, that's when it starts becoming a task rather than a normal day at work. So that's sort of where you start seeing the difference, where I don't really know what the progress on site is. I've completed, let's say, maybe about 70% of the project, but I've received only 40% of the payment. And this is usually something that we started finding out later in the project, not early enough that we could act on it. So that's predominantly how these two are linked.
So does the team at GCID religiously logs and you are religiously tracking the installed work progress on some review cycle?
For our new projects, we've sort of launched everything on the purpose-built platform. I mean, quite specifically RDash, right? And what we have is we have our project managers, project engineers having daily progress reports. Okay. So they fill in the daily progress reports, and let's say that we get the main LPO from the client, and maybe we have a variation or something like that. We can see the progress of each one of these, and then depending on that, and versus our contract, our accounts team is able to sort of pick it up and move with it. And the ease of flow is basically, I just get it on my WhatsApp. I don't have to open the app. I don't have to do anything. It comes in where it's necessary. And when I open it, right on top, it just tells me, this is the total percentage. This is today's workflow. This is today's progress. This is the total progress of the site. And then I have the further advantage of sort of going in and looking at what this percentage reflects in terms of a dollar amount, or rather a dirham amount, within the same platform itself. So that is something that sort of makes it easy for us to make sure, or rather reduce the amount of errors that we have with the invoicing side of things.
Understood. In fact, I would also like to point it out that RDash came about because we were scaling our design build setup 91 square feet at a very high pace. And we were building lots of differentiating factor features. Like we were building a lot of reporting mechanisms. We were automating site surveys. We were digitizing the procurement and value chain. So we were doing a lot of things on the periphery, right? Thinking that, and these are sort of the things which came in RDash much before we actually understood what's required, because in all those differentiation bringing functionalities, right, I was hoping that my basic of the business can be managed on Tele or a Zoho. We are using Tele at that point in time with some purpose-built ERP, or using Open ERP customized to our workflow. But then the major biggest win that we hit in the 91 square feet business was when we launched the installed work progress mechanism. And I'm happy that you also voiced the similar sort of an experience, because FY23, we were almost like a 90 days cash flow negative. And our cash flows were all over the place. We were rolling in debt, and the balance sheet was looking very, very messy. And from therein, we just made one intervention that, okay, we will run an entire business behind installed work progress. Our guys at the site has to report installed work progress, and based on that reported progress, those people who are spending money are also responsible for collecting money from the customer. So if you're declared that at this percentage of progress, I want to pay this much amount to the vendor, as per my contract, this much money has to recede as well. So if the reported progress is right, then company should not be stuck in a bad cash flow cycle. So it tied both the ends for us. And with that experience, we realized, oh my God. So if we can manage our finances right, then rest of the things on the project, it has a different kind of a rippling effect on the project, right? It has a rippling effect on how you manage the excellence part of the project as well. So that's when we went deeper into fixing other aspects of the core processes. And that's how we had a little bit of depth built in on the financial management side in the software that you're using right now. So you also mentioned, Nikhil, on the KPI side, that you want to reduce the time it takes to turn around a project. And you are also trying to plug the margin drains, right? So can you double click a bit on both of these as well? How exactly, what are the intervention in terms of the SOPs or digitization, wherein you have a direct or indirect impact of reducing timeline of the project, and how you are improving your margins on your projects?
We'll start a few steps back. Again, this is also an ongoing process, which I don't think is going to stop. But we'll start a few steps back where, initially we used to have WhatsApp communication, where things get lost so easily in groups. Like, you just keep scrolling and it's already lost. So now at this stage, we started having situations where, there was scope creeping that was happening. So basically you're diverging off your scope because the site requires it, or because the client asked for it, and it's not come to the books. It's not come into the office, but it's happened on site. We started having the timelines that started increasing because of the same issue. We started having timelines increasing because the orders were not placed for material on time. We started having issues because payments were not gone to the vendors on time. The advance payments had not been released, and the vendors didn't follow up either. They would just sit down. So that sort of started happening, and then we would realize it when things started, either smoking or started catching fire, and that's the time that we would start realizing that, okay, so now we have a problem. So overall, we sort of saw the project timeline sort of increasing over there. And then post that, when we started the digitization process, we've seen the timelines reduce. We've seen the orders being placed on time. We've seen work happening on time. We've seen people being flagged up or tasks being assigned, and even the higher management can see these tasks that are assigned. We know when a task is delayed. We know when a task is on time, and things like this. So if at all required, we can always jump in and assist the person or assist the team that is facing these issues. Then we started putting in verbal instructions, client provided verbal instructions as a process, which would either allow us to request for an extension of time, or it would allow us to enact on it quite urgently and make sure our finances are also there. So all in all, talking about it, in terms of digitization, we've probably seen a better situation with delivering projects on time. It's not that it doesn't happen that we still get delayed, but the error rate has gone down quite significantly.
That makes total sense, actually, and that's the honest, genuine answer as well. There's no magic wand to that, right? It's if you fix the inputs, the output is automatically fixed, right? So that's how it goes. Would you want to double click on the second aspect as well? How is there any margin impact that you think there's a potential to increase margin by doing implementation such as RDash in a design build setup?
See, there's definitely potential to sort of increase the margin. If that was not the case, we would not look at the digitalization side of things. At the end of the day, we are going to have to show an ROI. Whether you're the owner of the company or you work for the company, you are still answerable to the company. So you need to show the company an ROI. And at the end of the day, any form of digitization is an investment, and you need to be able to prove an ROI to it. So what we're looking at is the day you have your delivery timelines reduced, you are saving on the people who are going to be there. You're saving on the transportation that's going to happen. So on a day, you would possibly save a good maybe 1% or something like that per day that it increases. And this is not calculating any kind of delay penalties that we're looking at. Then you also look at the budgets that come in. You know how much you have to spend for something. It makes the decision-making process easier. So by default, and you have your registered vendors, you've got your vendor rates and things like that. We've still not completely started using vendor rates and rate contracts, which we plan to do possibly in the next quarter that we're looking at. But once you have something like that, you are automatically looking at increased margins and reduced reworks and costs and things like that. Because honestly speaking, we drain margins when you're looking at scope creep. You're looking at rework that's happening, about 3 to 6% we're going to lose over there. In terms of project delays, you're losing about 2 to 4%. In terms of inefficient procurement, about 1 to 3%. Idle resources, if I'm going to have resources, manpower or vehicles on site, that's again another 1 to 2%. Subcontractor performance, if that's bad, that hits my margins as well. Payment delays from the clients or raising invoice to the client, that hits us as well. And then, so you've got this entire thing. So you possibly have about 12 to 3% of just the margin gain as an opportunity.
It's basically sum of parts. So how long have you been implementing RDash, Nikhil, if you want to share?
I believe we are in about the 4th month, and we are already running about something close to 19 projects. So that's from scratch. That's not the old projects that we were on. It's not easy. Even now, it's not easy. It does make life easier, having the right tool for the job.
So Nikhil, in this 4 months of implementation of RDash, in your estimate, how much of ROI in terms of percentage you have gained on both time as well as cost on running a project? I know there are no real benchmarks to it, but what's your gut feeling says? What you have gained in the last 4 months, and what is the potential that you see in your journey down the line when you are 2 years into implementing the software?
It's honestly too early to sort of put down, like you also mentioned, because none of the 19 projects that we have, we've actually completed completely within our RDash life cycle. Right. So these projects have either just started or they're, sort of midway through it. They've just gone through an approvals process or something like that. But just generally, the visibility on what's going on, what's been ordered, what's not been ordered, where we are going to hit a roadblock, where are we spending more than what we've budgeted for, things like this. these things in itself, we can already see it work. And we see it work for every one of the projects. And you can see it work from day one.
Yeah.
You see it work the minute, your BOQ is uploaded, the minute you have your budgets, and then, you've got your kickoff and you have your timelines and you say, this is what we have to do. And so here's a really interesting feature as well. So whether or not I upload a full detailed program onto RDash, I still get to see, based on the start and end date and based on the POQ that you have, you still get to see an approximate of the delay of a project that you're looking at. It sort of screams at you on top. It says 6 days delay or 12 days delay. And this sort of pushes us to go into that project, dive in a little deeper and see where we can mitigate those delays. So by default, I see a potential where we can reduce the delivery time, reduce the reworks, and at the end of the day, have a happier client and have a happier cash flow.
So let me reframe my question. I do understand that it's really difficult to pin down a number. Even after you have completed the project, then also it's very difficult, because in projects, every project is unique. There's no baseline to it. But as a gut feel of a promoter running a design build company, what is the net impact in terms of percentage on time as well as cost that your gut says that implementation of RDash can bring to your company?
Yeah, so in an ideal situation, what the sort of opportunity loss that I would be looking at with a platform, we're looking at about a 15 to 20% of changes in margin, of increase in margin, just by achieving those KPIs.
Crazy. We don't even say that much in our marketing campaigns.
If you see the amount of rework we're having to do, you would say that.
Yes, I understand. And in terms of timelines, how much do you think?
In terms of timelines, see, we already run on tight timelines. So in terms of timelines, I would sort of see it reduce the amount of effort that goes into maintaining those timelines. So predominantly, I would be looking a project manager who can handle more, because we've taken off the burden from him. We are looking at a procurement team that can perform better, because we take off some amount of burden from there. So all in all, possibly maybe about, it contributes to the 15 to 20%. I
really love your answer. I don't want you to say percentage right now, because that's the most honest answer that you can give, because the nature of the project is it expands and contracts depending on how much time that you have. that's the nature of the beast. Yeah. So really, really genuine answer. Thank you for that, Nikhil. So Nikhil, coming to the last part of my conversation is this: our entire industry is stacked of people, right? Even whatever amount of digitization you do, right? You can't bring the human out of the loop. You are still dependent on the guys who are driving procurement, guys who are doing quantification, guy who are managing customer relationship, guy who's coordinating with the supplier, because this entire system of trust that we are trying to drive, and the trust is between human to human. It cannot be between system to human, right? So if you want to shed some light on what an implementation of any technology system or a purpose-built technology system in a design-build setup, what kind of impact it has on development of your people, development of your manpower?
I would like to go back to what I'd said. You cannot treat this, and Amit, I know that we both are in line with this, but you can never sort of treat implementation of any new system, whether it is digitization or otherwise, as an IT project. Yeah. It is a people project. It is a people plus a process project, all in all. What you're looking at is, just set the goals right, understand what we're trying to do, set your KPIs, and then sort of keep the people in the forefront and work with them rather than, just throwing a blanket over them and saying that this is what it is, this is how you're going to do it, and this is what it is. So I think that is the smallest way that I can answer that.
Let me rephrase this question, Nikhil. So what happens is, one of the unfortunate reality of our sector is we bring in a lot of young talent. This young talent is reporting to mid-management, and leadership is generally seeing and absorbing what mid-management is reporting back to them, right? So these young folks who are joining this sector, they are largely growing on the back of the tenure that they have spent on the ground, right? There's no real way for the young folks who are entering our industry to demonstrate their work, the quality of the work they're doing, the precision, the high quality coordination, the planning, right? The heart and soul that they're putting into it. There's no real way for them to showcase that to the leadership, because the project outcome is dependent on 100 other factors. right? You are not having every time, you don't have the time to talk to individual guy, how he's doing, right? And the reviews run the way the reviews are run, right? So in that scenario,
Right.
when you have a visibility on an individual level and at a site engineer level, at a procurement executive level, you have finally some KPIs that you can provide to them and you can track performance against. It opens up way for a faster growth, right? And this is how, like, if you look at some of the scaled up companies in India, like L&T has a tech arm called L&T Infotech, and they have heavily invested in digitization effort over the last 3-4 decades. And that's the major differentiator, where L&T has massive amount of consolidation of demand and every other player is still fragmented in a particular niche, right? So we have seen this kind of effect at play in terms of people development. And if you look at average tenure of people, I was speaking to HR head at L&T the other day, and he said that average tenure of people at L&T is more than 8 years. Right, that's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, or asking from that lens, that are you experiencing such signals wherein you notice some site engineer or some guy's extra mile effort while you are just browsing through the systems or looking at the data that you have? Or maybe it's too early to say.
See, honestly speaking, for GCID, we've not had this specific challenge before. And let me explain to you why. Because right from the top, that is the owners, you would see them at site, whether the site is running in the middle of the night or early morning. You would see them being involved in situations, at 3 a.m. in the morning, at 1 a.m. in the morning, and all the way down to 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So this sort of drives everyone to get more involved in it. And we have been able to see individual work. We have been able to see individual outcome. So we've not really had this sort of, the division between a middle management and the site team and the top management. We also have, regular meetings in our office. So usually we have Saturdays, which is purely just for meetings and just to get, it's a huddle, it's an internal huddle, and we sort of understand what's going on. So right from our drivers all the way down to, the project managers and everyone, we sort of keep in touch as much as we can with the entire team. So when it comes to individual effort, individual, growth, we sort of see it happening. And the other side of things is we want people to grow individually. What I have learned from the bosses is that when you have people grow individually, the company on its own starts growing. You don't have to do something separate for it. As long as you have your individual members getting stronger, getting more independent, having better know-how, you will see that reflect in all of your projects, and you will see that reflect in your overall company growth. So let me give you an example of what I mean. My designers, they can take care of authority approvals. Some of them have DCD cards, which is Dubai Civil Defense cards, so which means that they can even go in for the inspection with the civil defense person. Okay. My project coordinators can do the same thing. I can do the same thing. My other heads can do the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is, this is just one example, but we are trying to build a situation where we sort of actively share knowledge amongst us. We actively train people within the company. So they don't have to be a specialist in everything, but as long as they've got a brief understanding of what's happening around them, we see that growth happening, and we see the people taking an effort. So we've not actually faced that differentiation between a middle management and the lower teams.
And the last question is, have you seen any delta, qualitative or quantitative, in managing your supplier relationships? So for example, if you don't have the right kind of systems, then you cannot always give clarity to your suppliers where their payments are stuck, where their POs are stuck. The documentation lags behind the project progress, and the reconciliation becomes a nightmare, and the relationship with the supplier goes for a toss. So do you think that this was already fixed at GCID, so it was never a problem? Or maybe in this or in any other way, you think that implementing RDash has been helpful in improving your supply?
We've not exactly had a situation where we strain ties with vendors. At the end of the day, we need them as much as they need us. So our agenda is never to sort of strain a relationship with them. Now, we have had situations where either their payments are stuck, or they've submitted an invoice and it's not been approved, and we sort of then have to track back, and they would call the office landline, and we need to now find out who they gave the invoice to when did they submit the invoice, where has that invoice gone, call that person, okay, what has happened, oh yeah, the invoice is in my car, I've not yet signed it, I'll come and drop it off in the office, things like that. And then you have this sort of divide that happens between us and our vendors and our affiliates. So that is something that we are sort of fixing with RDash coming in. That is something we attempted to fix with Teams. That is now something that we are fixing with RDash, where we see their progress in a live sort of scenario. So if I go into the vendor orders, I can see which order I've placed, how much percentage of that order has been completed in relationship to the work progress that has happened. And I can also see now in the approval hierarchy where it is stuck. So if at all there is some place that, that things are not moving, we can then sort of jump in and action it. But all in all, the idea is to have it automated, to have people easy. They can approve it on their phone, they can move about. So I see this sort of, positively impacting that angle of things.
Interesting. I almost feel like inviting you to the other side. Okay. I think it's a wonderful conversation. You have been very candid. You shared things openly, and I had a lot of fun talking to you. It's not always you had such fun conversation on webinar. I had a lot of fun. I'd love to keep going. I have some more questions, but we are a little past the time that we slotted. So why not we just take a couple of minutes for the viewers if someone have any questions to Nikhil or me. They can put that in the chat or can unmute themselves and ask.
I actually see one of the owners on call.
Mr. Akshay, okay, from the GCID, I think. You do have a question around version control for collaborations. Can we please unmute Mr. Akshay?
So I have a question about version control in the sense that when you're doing collaborative work, so let's say it's for design, for example, and you have one team working on a certain aspect of the design and another working on another aspect, and you're making changes to this design. I'm curious, what software are you all using to keep track of these changes as they're being made? And if you need to revert to an earlier version, if there are errors made by a design team, for example, what software is basically used for collaborative design work? That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so before I answer that, Amit, that's my brother. He stays in the US. He's an aeronautical engineer and he works with a satellite company, and he was waiting to put me in the spotlight. Okay. Thanks for that, Akshay. But I know that you also deal with something similar. So what we do is we handle this situation twofold. The first thing that we have is our design, which is running on CAD or 3ds Max or whatever it is. These executive files are sitting in a network attached storage, which has a backup of a backup of a backup. Now, what that means is multiple people can work on the same file, update it as and when they need it, and then roll on from it. Now, beyond that, once it goes past the design team and it goes into, do the projects for execution, then we start using RDash. So RDash has got this fantastic, I actually wish I could show them how it works, but RDash has got this fantastic thing where we can basically upload a drawing or a PDF or however it is. And you can actually upload any file, but we keep it only to PDFs to reduce the amount of space that we take up on the cloud. So you upload the PDF, and let's say it's called ABC. And now then the week after that, or 2 days later, you have a next file, basically an updated ABC. You sort of attach it to the same place. So it shows you which variation it is in, whether it is V1, V2, what it is. And you can always look back at the previous files as well. And you can see who's uploaded it, when it has been uploaded, when it is changed. So what this does is when I look at my phone, or my project managers look at their phone, or the site engineers look at their phone, right on top, they see the latest version. They don't see any of the other ones. Obviously, if they choose to, they can go and do that, but they don't actually, they don't have to swift through files to understand which was the latest one.
Yes, and actually you can also double click on the design file. You can go into a particular section of the design and can start a conversation within the design at a particular place, that if you don't understand a part of the design and the different people from different places want to collaborate, they can collaborate digitally. Basically, sort of digitization around design review process. I'm sure you understand BIM and these kind of systems. So it's almost like a mini version of BIM, which we have made for catering for simplicity for site teams. Is there a way to compare between current and previous version? Yes, Akshay. So this is around the block. There are a bunch of apps which does that. There's an app called Fieldwire. There's an app called PlanGrid. So it's a mature functionality which is around available in couple of applications which are purpose built only for design management. So it's not an alien functionality if you're looking for a tool suggestion. But yeah, for RDash as well, this is around the block. We are in process of launching that.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm curious to know, Amit, you've not brought up AI, even though. So, is that something that you're keeping somewhere till we explore it out? How's that going?
So we are planning to trying to keep it in stealth actually. So without making a lot of noise, we have actually developed one agent, which we are testing in house on our past 91 square feet data. It is giving sort of promising results. We want it to be really, really exciting on the first launch. So trying to delay the launch till the time it becomes super, super exciting. So what is exciting for us, it's a little high benchmark. So what we eventually decided that we should not, starve our users from the AI companion. So we have broken down the rollout in 2 phases. One rollout is coming this month, wherein it's a simple companion wherein your team can ask how to do certain things on RDash, what is the boundaries of the capabilities the system has, understand the software in a finer depth because nobody has time to dwell into those how-to questions and videos. So it's a simpler version that we are launching. On top of it, the next version, I can't commit a date, but definitely somewhere this quarter, that agent you will be able to type queries like, hey, I'm running 10 days delayed on this particular project. Create a report for me so that I can ask for extension. Tell me how I can save 5% on this particular project. Who is the project manager I should give the maximum hike to this year? So very deep.
That is pretty cool.
Analytical questions you will be able to ask. The output would be thrown also in terms of graph and live charts. You will be able to pin those live charts into your repository of dashboards and even can subscribe to those reports if that query is relevant for you. So that's the first agent that is being cooked right now. And post that, we are planning to build a lot of job specific agents like agent for quantifying the design, quantifying the BOQs, agent for running the RFPs and comparing the RFPs and setting the target rates, negotiating terms of contract with the suppliers, and agents which will help as assistant to the project manager. So there will be bunch of job specific agents which will all be tied to a memory layer. So anyone in your company talking to those agents will increase the quality of the output that agent will bring for everyone in your company. So infrastructure and the base work and the first agent is almost ready to launch, and more interesting stuff is around the block.
So the fact that you are actively looking at this, so it sort of gives me confidence because I always used to consider that AI would be the next sort of step into digitization, whether it is, you creating your space plans using AI, or it is creating, like you said, quantification based on drawings, things like that. So the direction that you guys are moving in, it gives me confidence that we are also thinking about it in the same direction.
I will not fail you. We've come this far, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't doubt it.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. And best of luck for GCID. Consider us your support partners wherever we can. We will be there for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amit.